Every investigator has a case that changes them, not because the crime was brutal, not because the stakes were high, but because for the first time, they realize they are not the one doing the hunting. This is that case for Agent Mysteria. Sarah Matthews was the most feared journalist in the country. In 14 years, she had brought down 2 ministers, exposed a billion-dollar banking fraud, and published a story that single-handedly dismantled an entire organized crime network operating inside the city's Port Authority. She did not write stories. She detonated them. On the night of April 4th, 48 hours before her biggest story was due to go to print, Sarah Matthews walked out of her apartment building at 9:15 p.m., got into a black cab, and was never seen again. Her editor found her apartment unlocked the next morning. Laptop open, half-finished coffee on the desk, notes scattered across the floor as if she had left in a hurry or been taken in one. And on her desk, one piece of paper torn from a notebook, 4 words written in black ink. She found the truth. The police had nothing by midnight. By morning, the story was everywhere. The country's most dangerous journalist had vanished the night before, publishing something that someone clearly did not want published. Mysteria received the call at 6 a.m., and then, before she could even respond, her phone buzzed with a second message. Unknown number, no name. You came for case 1. You solved case 2. Case 3 is different. This one was built for you. Mysteria stared at the message for a long time. Then she picked up her notebook. Then, let's see how well you built it, she said quietly. Sarah Matthews lived alone on the 9th floor of a building in the city's press district. Clean, organized. Every surface told the story of a woman who thought in systems, color-coded files, indexed notebooks, a corkboard above her desk so precisely arranged it looked like a work of art. Except it had been disturbed. Notes pulled from the board, 3 pins still in the cork with nothing on them. A gap in the file stack, something removed, recently, with intention. Mysteria photographed everything before touching anything. The laptop was open on a draft document. Blank. But the document had been created 4 days ago and edited as recently as 9 p.m. the previous night, 14 minutes before Sarah had left the building. Someone had deleted whatever was on it. Or Sarah had. The building's security footage showed Sarah at 9:15 p.m., coat on, bag over her shoulder, no signs of distress, no one following her. She walked to the street, raised her hand for a cab, and got in. The driver remembered her clearly. She was calm, he said. She gave me an address. We got there, she got out, she said thank you. That was it. The address was a parking structure on the east side of the city, empty. No cameras covering the upper levels. No signs of struggle, no personal items, no evidence that anything had happened there at all. Which was, Mysteria thought, the first thing that was wrong. Mysteria needed to know what Sarah had been working on. The editor, a sharp, exhausted man named Paul Oren, knew the broad outline. The target was Minister David Haran, head of the National Infrastructure Committee, 12 years in power, untouchable reputation, and according to Sarah, the architect of a systematic land acquisition fraud that had displaced thousands of families over 7 years, funneling seized land to private developers connected directly to his office. Estimated value of the fraud, over $300 million. She had documentation, Paul said, contracts, financial transfers, internal memos. She told me it was airtight. Did anyone else know what she was working on? She mentioned a source inside Haran's office, someone who had been feeding her documents for months. She called the source, the architect. Mysteria wrote that down and underlined it twice. Every thread she pulled led somewhere. The evidence trail was clean, logical, and remarkably well organized. Too clean, too logical. This investigation is moving too easily, she told Dewan. Every question I ask has an answer. Every lead goes somewhere. Cases don't work like this. Maybe this one does, Dewan said. No case works like this, she said, unless someone wanted it to. Mysteria went back to the apartment and looked at the corkboard again, 3 pins with nothing on them. Their position on the board was not random. They formed a triangle. The gap in the files was between 2 folders labeled Background and Confirmation. The deleted file name was still visible in the system metadata. Final, the architect. She traced Sarah's phone records, 14 calls to an unregistered number over 6 weeks. The last call, made at 8:58 p.m., 17 minutes before Sarah left the apartment. The number resolved to a woman named Clara Voss, a data analyst. No criminal record, no political connections, no obvious link to Minister Haran or to Sarah Matthews. Except one. Clara Voss had attended the same university as Sarah Matthews. Same year, same faculty. They had known each other for over 15 years. Mysteria drove to Clara Voss's address. Empty apartment, recently vacated. A single item left behind on the kitchen counter, deliberate she was certain of it. A notebook. Blank except for the first page. One line written in the same handwriting as the note found in Sarah's apartment. "You are exactly where I need you to be." Mysteria sat in her car outside the building for 11 minutes without moving. She went back through everything in her mind. The apartment disturbed, but not ransacked. The laptop deleted by someone who knew exactly what they were doing. The corkboard pins deliberately left. The cab, calm, no distress. The parking structure, no struggle, no evidence. The evidence trail against Haran, almost impossibly clean and well signposted. The source called the architect. Clara Voss, a 15-year connection to Sarah hidden until now. 2 notes written in the same hand. She thought about the 3 words from Case 2. "I know you." And then she thought about what she would do if she were Sarah Matthews. If she had a story so dangerous that simply publishing it was not enough. If she knew that powerful people could suppress a story, destroy a journalist, discredit a source, tie a publication in legal battles for years until the truth died quietly in a courtroom. What would she need? She would not just need a story. She would need findings that could not be questioned. Evidence gathered not by a journalist, but by an independent investigator whose conclusions carried legal weight, whose process was documented and unimpeachable. Someone that powerful people could not discredit. She would need Agent Mysteria. And she would need Mysteria to reach the conclusion entirely on her own, without being asked, without being told where to look, so that no one could ever claim the investigation was directed or manipulated. Mysteria closed her eyes. Sarah Matthews had not been taken. Sarah Matthews had disappeared on purpose. Every clue in her apartment, deliberately placed. The deleted document, staged. The corkboard pins, a breadcrumb. The cab ride, a clean exit from visibility. Clara Voss, Sarah's oldest and most trusted friend, helping her vanish safely while Mysteria followed the trail they had built together, piece by piece, toward Minister David Haran. Sarah didn't need a journalist to expose the minister. She needed a detective. She needed Mysteria's findings on record. Because a finding from Agent Mysteria, arrived at independently, documented meticulously, completely unprompted, was the one thing no minister, no lawyer, and no court in the country could dismiss. Mysteria had not been investigating a disappearance. She had been used brilliantly, precisely, with enormous respect for her ability, as the final piece of the most elaborate journalistic trap ever constructed. Mysteria made one call. "Paul, the story Sarah was writing, did she ever tell you who she planned to submit her evidence to before publication?" A pause. "She mentioned an independent verification. She said she had someone in mind who couldn't be pressured. Someone whose findings would hold up in any court in the country. She never told me who." Mysteria hung up. She drove to a small guest house on the quiet edge of the city. Room 4, ground floor, curtains drawn. She knocked once. The door opened. Sarah Matthews stood there, alive, composed, and not remotely surprised. "I wondered how long you would take," she said. "Sit down." For the next 2 hours, Sarah laid everything out. The documents, the financial transfers, the internal memos, the land acquisition records, 14 months of evidence against Minister David Haran, airtight, fully sourced, and now independently verified by the one investigator in the country whose process could not be challenged. "You used me," Mysteria said. "I trusted you," Sarah said quietly. "Those are not the same thing. Every clue I left knowing you would find it. I left knowing you would follow it honestly, without direction, without being told what to think. I needed your conclusion to be real. And it is. Everything you found about Haran, you found yourself. Nobody told you where to look. You endangered yourself. You created a false disappearance. You obstructed. I exposed a man who destroyed 300 families," Sarah said, "and I did it the only way that could not be buried. Minister David Haran was formally investigated within
72 hours. The evidence, gathered independently by Agent Mysteria and corroborated by Sarah's 14 months of documentation, was submitted to the National Oversight Commission. Haran resigned within the week. Criminal proceedings followed. Sarah Matthews published her story from an undisclosed location. It became the most read article in the publication's history. Officer Dewan drove Mysteria home in silence. At her building, he finally spoke. "She outsmarted you," he said. Not unkindly, just honestly. "Yes," Mysteria said. "How does that feel?" "Like meeting someone I might actually have to worry about," she said. She stepped out of the car, paused. "She didn't outsmart me, Dewan. She understood me. Completely. Every move I would make, every conclusion I would reach. She knew me better than most people who have worked beside me for years. That is either the most dangerous thing in the world or the beginning of something I don't have a name for yet." She walked inside. On her desk, a new file. Delivered by hand. No sender, no return address. She opened it. Inside, a single photograph. A man she didn't recognize, a location she didn't know, and a handwritten note in a different hand entirely, not Sarah's. "She told you about me? She shouldn't have. Case 4 starts now. Agent Mysteria. Case 3, closed." But for the first time, someone else had opened a file. And this time, Mysteria was not the detective. She was the target. Case 4. She won't see coming,